Are you struggling for an idea for your next song? A lot of people believe that you need to be struck by inspiration to write the next masterpiece, or that you've got to find the perfect tranquil environment in which to write. And while these can definitely help, they're not the only way to come up with songwriting inspiration on demand. I've pulled together 10 inspirational activities that you can do to get you writing again, anytime, anywhere. And I've included a bonus tip at the end, which flips this whole idea of inspiration on its head, and it might just help you get unstuck. Songs are essentially about emotion, and tapping into your feelings is a massive way that songwriters find topics to write about, and it makes them feel authentic and relatable to everybody else. So think about a time when you felt really sad, or happy, or angry, and use the song to express why you were feeling that way. As a songwriter, it can be really cathartic to write songs and get those feelings out. And when people listen to your song, they connect with that emotion in your music, and that's what moves them. The emotion that you choose to write about doesn't have to be something grand. It can be something simple, like enjoying your favourite pastry or having a walk down the beach. Don't let the thought that it has to be something huge and groundbreaking put you off from writing something. If you can't think of anything you've had an emotional response to recently, look back to your past, think back to maybe key memories from your childhood or important events that have happened to you throughout your life, and choose to write about them. See if you can take yourself back to that point in time and recreate what you were feeling and what was going on. Whatever you choose to write about in the song, make sure you're painting a rich picture for whoever's listening, and bring them into the mind of you as a character at that time. Let them know why you're feeling the way that you do, so that they can relate to it in your song. If you don't want to write about something from your past or your present, you could always look to your future, or potential futures that may not have happened. So for example, a lot of us have moments where there's key decisions that we make in our life. Do we take this job? Do we date that person? Do we move house? All these different things shape our futures and where we end up. It's fun to use your imagination to think about what might have been, or even dream up a whole new life for yourself. It may even inspire you to make some real changes in your life now. Maybe you could write your next New Year's resolutions as a song. But what if you don't want to write autobiographical songs and you'd rather write them about something else? Well, you can look at characters from films and books. They go on epic journeys and have huge character transformations, and there's usually lots of drama and interesting moments to dive into because they're rich with emotion and conflict and story. So have a think about your favourite characters from films and books and see if you can get into their minds and feel what it would feel like to be them and write about the experiences they're having. It can be really fun to write about characters from fiction because you get to re-engage with the film or the book that you love so much. Instead of writing about a specific character, you could write about a type of character, like a pirate or a vampire or an astronaut, because they engage your mind with different types of environments and experiences, which in itself is an inspiring thing. Good example of this, you could check out Skull Crusher Mountain by Jonathan Coulton, which is written from the perspective of a mad scientist in a creepy house on a hill. Might not be the first thing you think of when you want to write a song, but it's quite fun, and our brains are very inspired by novelty. But maybe you prefer for your songs to be written more about things that have actually happened to people, in which case you could choose a real person from history. For example, Rasputin by Boney M, or Vincent by Don McLean. If you choose to write about someone from history, make sure it's someone that you know a lot about, or you're prepared to research so that you can get those little details that will make the song lyrics really pop. You could even write about historical events and the impact that they had on the people. A lot of Iron Maiden songs follow this theme, and Viva La Vida by Coldplay was also inspired by historical events, in particular the French Revolution. But what if you're not much of a history buff? Nature has been a huge source of inspiration for all kinds of creatives for centuries. For example, birds that travel thousands and thousands of miles every year, facing all kinds of harsh conditions. You can take these themes and describe them in a way in your song that's universally applicable. You could write about a grand old tree where you live and how it stayed in one place for hundreds of years, but everything around it has changed and evolved in that time. Just go for a walk and have a look around you. You could be inspired by the weather or the changing of the seasons or the sunset. But finding inspiration from nature can feel a bit abstract, and you might want something a bit more tangible to base your song on. I suggest you listen to your favourite bands and analyse what they're writing about and where you think their song inspiration might have come from. In doing this, you might realise that songs don't need to be about something absolutely huge and grand to be a brilliant song. What a brilliant song can do is take the ordinary and make it extraordinary. My favourite band are the Canadian band Bare Naked Ladies, and I analysed some of their songs to see where the songwriting inspiration might have come from. And one that stood out to me was a song called Boomerang, which is not an obvious thing that you'd think someone would write a song about. But the boomerang was used in an extended metaphor for a relationship and how you were always coming back to the same person. And that then led me on to the next idea for song inspiration, which is something that's really common in creative writing groups. And that's where you're given a word, like any word at all, like a colour or a feeling or a place, and then you write maybe 8 lines about that thing. And it's a really quick exercise, but it's enough to get you thinking, and maybe some of the things you wrote in those 8 lines spark an idea for something else. It's completely unrelated to that word that you just wrote down, but it just gets you over that initial block of writing in the first place. Before we move on to the bonus, the 10th thing that you can do is start with music, even if you always start with lyrics first. Just try playing a few chords on your piano or your guitar or whatever instrument you play. Try humming something to yourself, and you might be surprised what comes of it. I was really surprised recently when I was strumming along to a song that I was making up, and I just sort of mumbled a line, and it wasn't really words, but it helped me find something that kind of worked rhythmically with the song, and then helped me figure out where I could have stressed and unstressed syllables in some words, and then I had a line, and from that line I could build a verse from it. Try doing this and just see if it sparks any ideas, because you're trying writing in a slightly different way, which can trigger new synapses in your mind. It's time for that bonus tip that I promised you. Maybe your lack of inspiration isn't actually lack of inspiration at all. You could choose any random word and write some lines about it right now, but that's not the problem. The problem is that the lines that you write would probably not match up to that level of perfectionism or standard that you've set for yourself. Or maybe it's because you're fearing the judgment of other people and whether your song will be good enough for them. So if you're still not inspired to write after going through 10 inspirational prompts, it might be that you're struggling with writer's block, which is less to do with the inspiration and more to do with what's going on up here that's holding you back from writing. You might want to check out my deep dive into writer's block that looks at where it comes from and practical activities you can do to overcome it and get back to writing songs.